Just for your information, facilitators this morning, you are going to have Ruben Vargas. Many of you already know him. Of course, Sophie Baranes, who's the leading expert in this CADRI initiative. And then we also have Bogdan Spataru, exploring the digital functionalities with all of us. So let me move to the agenda first. Let me explain a little bit about how we are going to be using our time this morning. First of all, there's going to be a very brief introduction and overview of the CADRI Partnership. Then we will explain and explore the CADRI digital tool and its rationale. Thirdly, the CADRI digital tool and its applications. So we don't get distracted, we are going to have a live quiz. The fifth step would be to explore the CADRI digital tool functionalities. Then we will have questions and answers, and we are going to wrap up and explain the next steps that we are planning to have after this first webinar. Next slide, please, Ruben. So a little bit of history on how the CADRI was set up and established. The CADRI is the result of several discussions and agreements undertaken by a group of directors from the different UN agencies and other external partners. The idea was to build a facility to capitalize on the complementarity of knowledge and practice of specialized agencies, funds, programs from the UN and other relevant partners that could bring their expertise from different sectors, such as the social sectors, the productive sectors, the infrastructure sectors, to reduce disaster risk and climate risks. Of course, the added value of the CADRI partnership lies in its complementarity and especially the ability to work across different sectors. In terms of partnerships, next slide, please. We have a number, as I said, of different partners. On the overall, we have a total of 14 UN agencies participating with us in joining this initiative and 6 non-UN partners. We have a group of executive partners, as we call them, where we can find FAO, IOM, UNDP, UNFPA, and UNICEF. Another group of technical partners with IFRC, WMO, OCHA, UNESCO, UNOPS, WHO, and WFP, and an advisory group where we have the Global Facility for Disaster Risk Reduction from the World Bank, the Global Network of Civil Society Organizations for Disaster Risk Reduction, GNDR, the ODI, the OECD, RED-R, UNDRR, of course, UNITAR, and UN Women. Several of the delegates from these organizations have joined us this morning in their capacity of the work that they are doing regionally. Important to mention that under the new joint program, the 2019-2023, the CADRI partner agencies have worked jointly to improve the offer of services to countries. Basically, they are looking into the common diagnosis and planning tools to expand their scope, notably looking into first putting the leaving no one behind at the center of the programming, integrating climate change and disaster risk reduction, mainstreaming conflict sensitivity into DRR and climate change, and then, of course, building systems to understand the interlinkages between hazards and multidimensional risks, as an important lesson from the recent COVID pandemic, of course. How do we work globally? Basically, CADRI has a structure that works through all these different regions around the globe, and basically they work through the regional centers, and CADRI counts with a focal point in each one of the regions. In the case of Latin America and the Caribbean, UNDP is the focal point for the CADRI initiative. Also in the Latin American region, it's important to mention that we have had experience, our recent experience is basically with the country of Bolivia, where we are working on recent assessment and working with the government on how to move this assessment further. And recently with Haiti, discussions and conversations are ongoing still with Haiti, and we hope that in the next months and the next year we are going to have an important intervention in Haiti. So welcome to the webinar, and I am going to pass on the floor to Sophie, I guess. Thank you. Ruben, Sophie?
Sophie, the floor is yours. Sophie? Well, okay, if it's Sophie is not there, I can start with the, because as Janet was explaining, so we have the capacity CADRI partnership that has been working for a couple of years now, several years, and then now we are in the process of revising the methodology for this implementation of the capacity diagnosis. And to support this process of the capacity diagnosis, we're also now designing and revising the tool, the CADRI tool, that facilitates this process of capacity diagnosis. So I'm going to explain a little bit the rationale that is behind this process. So basically, perhaps some of you are aware of how the CADRI tool works, or the CADRI methodology. So it's basically a sort of semi-structured interviews that are conducted at the national, local level, based on say it's a process that is defined together with the government. So this is semi-structured interviews are designed together with the government, defining the areas of interest, the topics that the government is interested in, so to assess these capacities. So we have the structured interviews, we have the field visits, we compile that information together with the different actors in the region, as was Janet mentioning, all the different members of this partnership, review this, analyze this information, and then produce a report together with the government, which set of recommendations, and the recommendations are going to be prioritized in order to define or to establish like an action plan. So how to move forward, how to improve the conditions that have been identified. So we had identified some gaps, and we say, okay, this is how we would like to work in the future to improve these gaps. So the users in this process, so we call it the users, basically is all the actors that participate in this process are the government experts, are the UN country team experts, the national society experts. And of course, we have also CADRI regional experts and members from the European Civil Protection, UNDAC, IFRC. Actors are involved, actively involved in the area of disaster reduction, disaster risk management, participate in this process, and also depends a little bit, the composition of these teams depends on the request from the government. The methodology, as Jenny was explained, well, has been tested in different regions to now like about more than 30 countries and plus. We are integrating the humanitarian development angle. As I said, it's a government-led, it's a multi-hazard process, meaning we try to, try to assess these capacities in the context of multi-hazard approach, whereas the multi-risk, and is multi-sectoral. Several actors participate in this process. One of the reasons that led to the definition or to review of this methodology is that some of the governments and our partners were saying, well, this methodology is sort of a one-size-fits-all, so we would like to see more possibilities to customize this possibility, this assessment, to depending on the specific context of the country, sorry. The other thing was about the gender blind. So gender was considered, but was not like strong, sufficiently strong in the methodology, in the process. So we said, well, we need to also integrate this, and additionally, the leaving no one behind, how to integrate these concepts, these approaches in the assessment of capacities. As I said, was not flexible enough to adjust to the context of the specific countries. So the revision, the idea to revise the tool, the methodology, was to include these issues that I mentioned before, and also to integrate more clearly the component of climate change, looking at the hazard-specific components. We had a multi-hazard approach, but what if some countries, some actors were interested in hazard-specific issues, if it's drought, if it's flood, the leaving no one behind component, the conflict sensitivity, and private sector. So the idea was to these elements, these key principles and criteria, integrate them into the guidance that CADRI proposes, CADRI has developed, CADRI Partnership has developed in these questionnaires, these question banks that are going to be used to guide this process of capacity the diagnostics at the country level. What are the DRR capacities that we have? What we need to improve? Where are we now? Where do we want to go, and what do we need to improve to get there where we're going to go? So far, we have like we call a generic questionnaire, is more general aspects of DRR, disaster risk reduction, disaster risk management, and we have also sectoral modules that have been developed together with our partners. They have developed by the partners, basically agriculture and food security, culture, heritage culture, the sector of culture, education, environment, infrastructure. So these are the modules that are going to be available in the tool. Just give you an example of how this is built into the different modules. So we have a governance module in the generic module that is talking about different issues. We have the governance, one aspect of capacity that we want to look at. And that generic module is going to include a series of questions that are going to guide us in that process of assessing the capacities of the country in that specific issue. A little bit later on, we're going to show a little bit more in detail what this governance implies. When we talk about governance, what are we talking about? When we're talking about implementation, what is what we're talking about? But here, what we are showing is that we look at governance, for instance, and we look at governance and implementation in one specific sector or in general terms. So it's basically what we have. We also have the financing aspects, technology and equipment, knowledge, these aspects considered in the tool. We're going to go quickly over this because we're going to see a little bit more of these examples when we see the tool, like the tool that has been developed to facilitate this process. This has been, as I said before, has been developed by all the CADRI partners. So every partner has participated in this process, developing the specific question bank, the questionnaires, the guidance for the users, for the assessors to lead this process. And then together with them, we now have like about 8 modules that are going to be available for the different users. The other aspect about this revision of the tool is the digitalization. If you are familiar with the CADRI methodology, you knew that there was like this Excel file. You could download the file, you can get the questions, you can extract some of these questions using this Excel file. And the idea after, well, one of the things is that the COVID-19, we need to mention this factor here is like, was okay, it is nice to have this in the digital format so you can really query the different questions. You can really play a little bit with the questions, trying to adjust them to your specific context. But in the specific case was now that we needed to have from the nice to have to the must have because of the nature of the interventions now. We have these hybrid interventions. We cannot go to the countries. We need to do this partly virtual, partly in person there. So the idea was to have this tool to accelerate this process of developing the tool. Going digital allows us to customize, be more flexible in customization, defining the domain and scope. It also help us to facilitate this process of quality assurance, ensuring that the key principles that we would like to integrate in this capacity diagnosis are indeed included and we can monitor, we can follow. That's what we're going to see with the tool. It's something that we could do, but the tool is going to facilitate this process. It's also an idea of how we can accelerate this what we call automated, but like trying to generate the reports, facilitate the process of the team leaders, the team that is participating in this process to compile the inputs from the different assessors and results. Also, the tool is going to, the digital functionalities allows to be more participative in the planning process, multi-stakeholder, the facilitation. Again, it's a little bit similar like virtual teamwork space where we can all contribute, and then facilitate also the update of these documents. The CADRI, again, the way we are planning to use it is like we have in-country missions. We can go to the country, we can use the tool together with the government, defining, okay, this is the scope of what we want to do, then how we can use the tool to define the guidance for that specific mission. We also have hybrid approaches, which is that we're saying virtually and in person. We have virtual missions, also completely virtual missions. And of course, the other possibility is that an actor, for instance, the government can facilitate this process of capacity diagnostics without the intervention of the CADRI partnership, just if they want to do it alone, or even in some cases, if an agency wants to conduct a specific assessment of a specific sector, they can also use the tool, digital tool, access the functionalities that we have there. So in this case, I'm going to give my floor to myself to explain the next component. This is like more about the tool in itself, what we have developed so far. So it's a tool that, as I said before, it's like the idea is to meet different needs. We have different needs. So we're saying, well, we like to have like a more general disaster reduction, climate change adaptation capacity diagnosis. We would like to see this process. So the tool could be tuned to this specific need, but we can also focus on one specific area, say disaster preparedness or climate change adaptation. These are all interrelated, but we can set specific focus depending again on the interest of the country that is the one that leads this process. The methodology again and the results should lead to different processes, but basically what we would like to have is that these inputs, the recommendations, the assessment should be transformed into action plans, into active actions, into operationalize these concepts. So we have this helping to support the development of the national DRR strategies. Like for instance, we can give the example now of Bolivia, where we have developed this process, been taking some time to develop the process, given the specific circumstances there, but we are also using the inputs and working together with other partners that are supporting the country in improving their capacities, using these inputs to assist to support the development of the national DRR plan. So it's like transform the capacity diagnosis into actions at the country level, the short, long, and medium term. That's basically the process. And also key component here is that these inputs can also be used to support the definition of the cooperation framework and other mechanisms or collaboration mechanisms at the national level, so that we have inputs that talk to the needs of the country. About the tool, and then these are what we explained before is more the rationale, is all the concept behind, but we are now developing this tool to facilitate this process. At the center, at the core of this is this facilitate this process capacity diagnosis, and then we have developed this tool that we're going to see in a few minutes, like okay, how we can facilitate this process, make it more easy to implement. So we are having now a tool that has key components. We have the administration, meaning basically, I mean, you know, an application that's like this is going to allow us to manage the tool, to update, to create different users, but is to administrate the tool. So that's basically a component we're going to see later. The other component we think is key is the mission planning, meaning this is going to help us we're going to help the team implementing this process to plan the mission. So to define, okay, these are the areas of interest. We have here the experts in this specific area. We can assign responsibilities to this specific experts, and they're going to have specific tasks, assign specific questions to answer, areas of interest that they need to identify. And we can do this using the mission planning functionalities. And as I said before, also we have now then the reporting, meaning that we can, all the input that have been produced for this team can be then, the tool can facilitate this process of compilation, integration, and preparing final report. It's not going to produce the final report, the magic final report. It's going to help us to compile all the inputs, but we're going to facilitate this process and, of course, facilitate the process of the team that is going to prepare the final report. This is in red. What you see in red is what we have developed so far, the components of the tool that we have developed so far. And we are planning to develop the next components, which is the prioritization of planning, meaning the other recommendations. How do we decide on which ones to implement first based on what criteria? So this is also, we normally do it when we conduct these missions, but we're going to integrate this aspect also in the tool. And finally, the final component is the follow-up. How to follow up the implementation of the recommendations, so we can have these elements in defining the tool. Going back a little bit, is that's how I was explaining the elements, how the different questions, we call the question bank, which is the basic guidance, the guidance that the assessors are going to have access to plan, implement the capacity, the capacity diagnosis. So we have like 5 areas of capacities. I mentioned them before, but these are the governance capacities. So here we look at institutional arrangements, implementation capacity, financing, knowledge, technology. This is like the structure, the approach that allows to build these question banks. And if you see in the next slide, so we have a capacity dimension that we call governance. And then within that capacity dimension, we call capacity dimension elements. So when we talk about governance, what do we want to look at? What do we know? What do we want to know of the capacity of the country in this specific area? It's about the legislation, it's about the institutional mandates, same implementation capacity. So each capacity dimension has a different capacity dimension elements. And this is transformed into this guidance and the way of questions. That's what we call the question bank. So the capacity dimension is like the main element. We call it the core aggregated question, is the main component, the core aspect that we would like to investigate. Then we have the CD elements, the guidance. So if we want to assess governance, what are the key aspects that we want to look into when we're looking at governance? The legislation, as I said, other aspects. This is transformed into questions. And we have this, what we call this first order question, and the second order questions are those detailed guidance. Okay, if you're going to look at the legislation, so look at these aspects, like for instance, what we were saying, leaving no one behind, reflected, gender, reflected. These aspects should be reflected in these legislation. So it's the guidance for the assessor to conduct the capacity diagnosis. This is the way it is structured. I'm going to explain, I already explained this, but this is how we are structuring this, and the way it is built in the database that we are building with all the questions that have been developed by the different partners. An example here of how question governance is built or is transformed into this series of questions, this guidance. So it's here example, but I'm gonna go fast so we can go into the tool. One component that I mentioned also, so we have this structure, we provide the guidance, and then, as I said before in the previous slides, the compiling the report. So how are we going to assess these capacities? We call it assess, but then we're going to say give an estimation of where is this capacity. If it's a good level, is still we need to improve. So we have like these correlated questions are going to be scored using one score is a subjective score based on the findings of each assessor. So in the end, we're going to have like these, as I said before, like help to compile the input that we have received. So the tool is going to produce these diagrams they're going to see here for different sectors, different capacity dimensions, and we're going to see where we are. So with this, we can also use it as for the next step, like where are the areas that we need to really work, really improve, or really define key recommendations to improve, to keep the development that we have so far. So this is like the component that is going to help us with the reporting. I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna give the floor to Carla, who is going to lead us to a very short quiz. So for you to let us know if these concepts have been like clearly explained. And then after that, with this, we're going to go to the demonstration of the tool. This is all the concepts, the fundamentals for this, and then we're gonna explain how is that this tool has been implemented. Okay, is there a question? We're gonna have the questions at the after this session. So, Carla.
Yes, thanks, Ruben, and good morning, everybody. I hope you have been listening very carefully to the presentation of Jeanette and Ruben, because now I'm going to test your knowledge of the CADRI Partnership and the new digital tool. And here's some background noise.
I just muted, yeah.
Oh, okay. So before, we always have been doing this quiz with the team. So this will be the first time in Zoom. So if there's any glitch, please bear with me. I'm going to launch the poll now. So please let me know if it works for every one of you, because it should be popping up on your screen. And then I'll be going through the questions with you together, because I think you won't be able to see the correct answer, which of course I guess you're curious to know. So Ruben, can you tell me if you can see the questions?
I see the questions where it says like he's in the poll. Are you sharing the poll now?
Yes.
Okay, now they are seeing the questions. If you could confirm that you are seeing the questions, colleagues. Some of you could confirm.
Yes, we are, Ruben.
Great.
Okay, great.
What we don't see is the slide.
But we cannot answer.
Yeah, there is not a slide or image on the slide 30.
Yeah, because
Ruben, you have to show the slide actually on the PowerPoint presentation.
Ah, okay, you want to share it then?
No, you have it in the PowerPoint.
Okay, I'm gonna share.
Yeah, so that's going to be a tough one if you don't even see the image.
Okay, I'm gonna share now.
So that was supposed to be the question to ease you into the quiz before we go to the difficult ones. So yeah, please answer if you think this image is either a real picture or is it a painting? Okay, see, it works because I'm getting some responses. And actually, although it looks surreal, it is a real picture. So, okay, let's move to the next question, which is now about the CADRI Partnership. How many organizations constitute the CADRI Partnership? Is it either 10, 15, or 20 partner organizations? I think this should be an easy one.
But Carla, I cannot really access, I cannot respond to the, I see it, but I cannot respond.
No, because you are the leader on this, Sophie, so you cannot respond.
Okay, good.
Maybe it's because you don't know the answer, Sophie.
Yeah, I guess
okay,
so.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it works for everybody.
You cannot, yeah.
So as most of you replied correctly, it is of course 20 partner organizations, as you have seen in the PowerPoint presentation at the beginning. And now let's move to the third question. the CADRI technical partners have a commitment to deploy expertise in response to a government or UNCT request. Is this true or false? And I can see almost everybody got this question right. Very good. Of course, it is true that CADRI technical partners commit to deploy expertise in response to a country request. And so the next question is, which is the CADRI host agency in the Latin America and Caribbean region? Is it either UNFPA or UNDP or UNDRR, or is it IOM? And I see most of you responded already and got it correct again. Of course, it's UNDP who is hosting the CADRI partnership in the LAC region. The fifth question is, how many countries received support already from the CADRI partnership to date? Is it less than 15 countries? Is it about 20, or is it already more than 30 countries who have received support from the CADRI partnership? And of course, not only in the LAC region, but overall. And I see this is a more difficult question. I'm getting very mixed responses, but the correct answer is it's already more than 30 countries who have received support from the CADRI partnership already. So we're coming to the end of this quiz. The CADRI tool was revised to integrate leaving no one behind and conflict sensitivity principles. Is this true or false? And I see everybody got this question correct. Yes, of course, it's true. That's one of the big selling points of the new CADRI tool, this integration of LNOB and conflict sensitivity. And now we're coming to the last question. The CADRI digital tool will also be available for governments to use without any CADRI support. Is this true or false? And yes, it's true. And also another selling point of the CADRI tool, that although, of course, the CADRI partnership facilitates it and offers support to countries, if a government decides to use the tool without any facilitation, they can do so. And with this, I am going to close the quiz and hand the floor back to Ruben. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Thanks, Carla. I'm going to now give the floor to Bogdan, who is our developer. He's working together with us in the development of the tool, the application. So he's going to demonstrate the functionalities what we have developed so far.
Hi, everyone. I am Bogdan Spotaru, user interface designer. I have joined CADRI early this year and helped with creating the tool. Let me share my screen so I can give you a quick demo of our development process. So today I'm going to present you some key features of the tool we are developing. I hope you can see my screen.
You can.
Okay. At this point, the tool is under development. This means some data is already live and working on our demo server, but we are still working on some backend functionality of the tool. But for today's demo purpose, I can shortly present you the most important section of the tool. In the first part of my demo, I will give you a quick tour of the main structure of the tool. The main landing page of the tool will provide some information about the tool and what the tool can do. We'll give general access to the main question bank. and will allow users and agencies to log in or create accounts inside the tool. Going into the login section, here users with created accounts can log in, or if they don't own an account, they can request an access to the tool by using the request access link under the form. The request access will send the user information to an administrator that will create an account for the specific user. Users with created accounts will enter the tool with their email and an automatically generated password, which they can edit later on inside their profile page. So let me log in with some demo credentials. Once they log in, they will see their profile page. I'm logged in now as a demo CADRI admin, and I already have some information filled in my account. But new user, when they will log in for the first time, they will need to add some extra information on their profiles. So they will have to click edit and update their details like organization. They can regenerate a new password, add a photo, add information about geographical coverage, add information about their area of specialization and their languages. As a CADRI admin or an agency admin, you can create new accounts inside the tool and also access the general directory of users created inside the tool. For each of the users added inside the tool, a profile will be created. Information about his area of specialization, geographical coverage will be stored, and this way a global expertise database will be created inside the tool. This, of course, will facilitate the planning of future mission and will allow the tool users to find an expert easily. What I presented you so far is the users module of the tool. We have split the tool structure into three main sections. Going into the main dashboard of the tool, by clicking the link dashboard, we can see the main dashboard. Here, the tool is split into three main sections, and below, one help and support center. The first section is the mission and countries, where users can create a mission or manage a country. The second section is the users module, which I presented you before, and where an admin can add or edit a user inside the tool. And the third section is the question bank, where we store the question into the database and manage the filter and taxonomies like hazards, modules, capacities, and so on. Depending on their role and permission, an user can access more or less information from the main dashboard interface. For example, I am logged in now as a CADRI admin. I can create a mission and edit the question bank, but a normal user cannot do this. In the Help and Support Center, users can find information on how to use the tool, how to create content, and also see video tutorials on how to manage the content of the tool. Next, I will present you the main core of the tool, which is the question bank. The question bank is a very flexible feature of the tool and can be customized in very different ways. Here, all the questions displayed under different levels are stored in our tool. We have core aggregated questions, which are the top level questions, first order questions, and second order questions, which are grouped under each core aggregated question. Currently, the questions you see in this demo are just a small part of the database. We are continuously populating the question bank, and in the final live application, the question will contain a larger volume of questions. Of course, agency and users have options inside the tool to recommend and propose new questions that will populate the question bank. The key feature of the question bank is that will allow users to filter the questions database and build custom sets of questions based on their needs. Users and agencies can use this set of questions in a mission or separately outside of a mission purpose. The question bank can be filtered by different tags like capacities, report types, modules, hazards, and principles. Like I said before, we are still populating the question bank, and not all the tags presented in these filters have results yet in this demo I present you today, but they will have in the final lab application. Now, let's do a simple example and filter the question bank by selecting some tags. Let's select, for example, a capacity, like governance, and let's say a module like generic. Clicking on search, the question bank will filter the questions, taking in consideration these tags we selected. Will display core aggregated question, first order question, and second order question related to governance and generic. Of course, we can add even more taxonomies to our filtering process. So let's add a principle, for example, like leave no one behind. Clicking search again, the filtering will take in consideration this new tag we just added, leave no one behind. Will display the same, only the core aggregated question, the first order question, and the second order question, which are related now to governance generic, but also to the principle leave no one behind. Let's delete our tags and do another simple example. Let's select again a capacity. And now a different module, like education, for example. Clicking on search, again, the database will be filtered, taking in consideration governments and this time education. And the same will display only core aggregated question, first order question, and second order question, this time related to governance and education. So, like you see now, the purpose of filtering the question bank is to allow agency and users to build custom set of questions based on their needs, which they can use inside their mission or individually outside of a mission purpose. So they can use for interviews, to print the set of questions and other general purposes. In the next part of this demo, I will cover the process of planning a CADRI capacity diagnosis mission, customizing of the capacity diagnosis based on a country context and interest. Going into the main dashboard of the tool, the first step in the process of planning a capacity diagnosis is to create a mission. From our dashboard interface, we are going into the section where the missions are created. On this section, A user with a specific role, in this case a Cadre admin or an organization or a team leader, can create a mission. The first thing, he will select a mission type. For now, we only have capacity diagnosis and prioritization and planning type as a mission. Then he will add a country. For example, let's say Bolivia. A report type. We have different type of reports. Let's select one, for example. A due date. A title is generated from the above information. Next, we can select some modules. Let's add, for example, generic and education and some hazards. Let's add floods and drought. We can add a description, but it's not mandatory. Based on this selected option, in the backend of the tool, a frame composed from the specific questions filtered by these selections is created automatically. We are calling this frame a country analytical frame and will contain a set of questions related to the module and hazards we just selected. As you can see, the mission is created. The second step in the process of planning is to map and deploy a multidisciplinary team. From our interface, we are going to the mission details we just created. And here, a user with a specific role, in this case, a team leader, can build and structure a team which will work together in the mission process. For each of the users selected, a role will be assigned depending on his main specialization. We will have team leaders, sub-team leaders, and team members. The next step in the process of planning will be to assign responsibility to these team members. So this process will happen in the question frame we initially created when we started the mission, the one called country analytical frame. So if you remember, when we created the mission, we selected some hazards and some modules. That process created a frame behind the mission, which we call now inside the tool country analytical frame. So assigning responsibilities to the team members will happen in the country analytical frame. This means from the set of questions we created automatically, we will need to assign some of them or all to some specific user based on their specialization. So we can select the user and assign set of questions or remove set of questions from their responsibilities. The third part of this demo is about conducting the capacity diagnosis. At this step, all the team members have assigned to them a specific set of questions, which we call inside the tool user analytical frame. Depending on their specialization, team members have options to refilter the set of questions assigned to them. So they will go inside their user analytical frame and they can refilter their user analytical frame by removing some principal or some submodules. This way will facilitate to filter again the user analytical frame and reduce the number of questions. users can follow the progress of data provided by each member using some statuses that will allow the team leader to monitor the progress of his team members. Going inside their set of questions, team members can score the questions, can add findings, hazards analysis, and recommendation. And all this data gathered from all the users will be compiled into a final report. The final report will contain all the mission data inserted by the user, along with the diagram that will be automatically created based on the score and user information. That's all I wanted to present you for today. Just a short introduction of the tool. Like I said, we are still working on some backend developments, so what you see now is just a demo under development. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll hand over to my colleagues, which will start the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thanks, Bogdan. Yeah, so as Bogdan just indicated, so here where we open the floor for you. If you have any question, any comment about the tool, we will be happy to answer them. You can formulate your question either in English or in Spanish, no problem. You can see. Susana, you have a question. I see you raise your hand.
Sí, gracias, Rubén. Normalmente hay un tiempo establecido para las misiones. Uno, ¿quiénes establecen las misiones? Yo ya entendí que las misiones se pueden articular, puede ser el gobierno, puede ser, pero normalmente tiene que ser fuera de un gobierno, algún socio en particular, o es una herramienta abierta para una articulación previa, digamos, con un Estado. Esas son mis preguntas. Over.
Estamos perdiendo, Susana, lo que entendí. I'll answer in English so that our colleague can translate. So for the benefit of your colleagues, Susana is asking is kind of what is the procedure, the protocol to use the tool. If a stakeholder, a partner of an actor at the national regional level wants to use the tool, so what would be the procedure, the timeline? So if I understood correctly the question, if not, you can let me know. But basically, as we were explaining, so we have like in the capacity diagnosis missions, no? In general.
Es si una persona fuera del consorcio de CADRI puede usar la herramienta.
Yeah. And also, una persona fuera del consorcio podría usarla. One outside the CADRI partnership can use the tool. Indeed. We have created this like as Bogdan was explaining, you know, these different users, different roles, and then we can assign this specific user, request access, request provide these specific rights so that that person, that actor can use the tool and conduct the capacity diagnosis specifically in sector or general mission. Nuri. Hola, Nuri, tienes puedes hablar, claro.
Hello everybody, colleagues. Well, we try to wait a minute. We tried to do a diagnosis with CADRI in Ecuador in 2018, I have the opportunity to meet Sophie Balanes at this time because we did a training here in Ecuador. At this time, we was attending a government invitation to assist them in relation to a disaster risk management national evaluation. Unfortunately, at this time, political changes made it difficult to move forward with the process. But now that I'm hearing that you have this digital CADRI tool, it's a wonderful news. I think it's a really very powerful tool to be applied just for one sector or as you said, for many sectors. But I have some questions. When do you think the tool will be ready in Spanish? Just thinking in our region and to talk with the governments and to ask about this. And how the expert or technical advisor will be qualified. Well, another question is more related maybe with the UNDP Crisis Bureau roster, because you are now creating a parallel tool to create the group of CADRI experts. How this will interact with our roster. Do you expect to have CADRI expert in the roster? Maybe, I don't know if now it's already this sort of experts, or maybe it's the expert in disaster risk management. These one are some of my questions.
Thanks, Terry. Sophie, you want to take these questions? Would you like? I don't see.
Yes, I can. So you had 3 questions, in fact, in one, if I understand correctly, Nuri. And yes, I do remember actually this very interesting engagement with the government of Ecuador in 2017 with the Ministry of Planning. So yes, first level, yes, the tool will be made available for government to use it without any CADRI support. And when is it going to be available in Spanish? That's a bit the issue, because the question bank is we haven't counted, but we think it's something like 10,000 questions. Of course, or maybe 5,000. I mean, I don't know, but we know it's huge because it looks at so many sectors and there are so many issues and so many hazards, and then you can you can go deep into whatever technology you need for drought or for I don't know, sun and dust storm, etc. So it's but then of course it's customizable. So in the end you can select only 100 questions if you want. So it's not, I mean, right now our priority is to translate it into French, because we get more demand from French-speaking countries. But then so my answer is we don't know, because to be able to translate the tool into Spanish, we will probably need to get some funding. It's extremely expensive, the translation. But that's of course something we will actually put in the budget for next year and see if the agencies, we have a pooled fund mechanism to actually, sorry, let me put the camera, to actually cost share, so the CADRI partnership activities at the global level. And typically the translation of the herramienta will be like a priority. So let's see. But obviously, if we get more country requests from your region, which is certainly not the region where the CADRI partnership has been the most active compared to other regions in the world, so that will be also an incentive for the agencies to put funding together to actually cost share the translation. Then in terms of how does the tool connect, I mean, the tool is composed of different parts. The question bank, anybody can access, play with it, customize it. Then there is there is this kind of user, how to say, like CADRI experts database, which is different from the user. So the CADRI expert database, it's all what we call it is composed of all the regional experts who are being trained on the methodology, either by participating to a country mission. You know, like for instance, we could consider that all our colleagues in Bolivia, in the UN country team in Bolivia, are actually CADRI experts, like the UNICEF Bolivia expert in education is a CADRI expert because they applied the education module together with the Ministry of Education of Bolivia. So yeah, this kind of database of CADRI experts, it's basically those are the regional experts who are on this call. And they will be trained, right? So this is like the first, the first webinar, and it's not really a training, you know, it's more like introducing the tool to you. But then we will have webinars which are really truly tutorials in Spanish. We will have a webinar in Spanish, we'll have a webinar in Russian, we'll have a webinar in Arabic, in French, in English on how to use the tool. And once you will go through the webinar, you will de facto, yes, become part of course, of the database of experts who can be deployed. We will also run the webinar for the global experts. So, you know, sometimes if we cannot deploy I don't know, a WMO expert from Panama, then we can deploy from Geneva or from somewhere else. So that's how we intend to go about the regional expert database. And of course, it's not only, I mean, the regional expert database is a bit of a standalone part of the CADRI tool, because this database can be used irrespective of the CADRI tool. You know, right now, UNDRR is actually commissioning a review of what are the capacities of the UN system in DRR. I mean, it's more specific than that. It's what are the capacities of the UN system to integrate DRR and humanitarian action. So it's very specific, but still, and typically having a database at least of who are the key sectoral experts or general, you know, or specifically DRR or climate adaptation experts, this will help. So it's also something anybody can use if you want to identify this expertise. Yeah. I hope I answered your question, Nuri. And nice to see you.
Sophie, also perhaps to mention that the modules that were developed, as also Nuri was mentioning, they were developed, that are still there in the Spanish, and we're going to continue using them, no, because also as a reference. So while we also translate the modules, the revised version of these modules, because these were updated, so but we are going to continue using them, and they are going to be available there in the tool. Also, we cannot provide access, because indeed is I think there is another question. I don't know if from Dario, like kind of a thing, I don't know, because he's asking what are the conditions for a partner to be considered an expert, or is it simply the designation of an organization? If you want to address that, Sophie.
Yeah, that's a good question. What I mean, right now, we are already basically pre-populating the database of experts. So we are using, for instance, we have a list of DR experts from IFRC regional office for Latin America. Maybe IFRC regional colleagues have not been trained yet on how to use the module, but we know they will be able to apply the methodology. The methodology is not rocket science. If you understand disaster risk reduction issues, if you are already familiar with this agenda, we don't, I mean, you know, most people who are deployed on a CADRI capacity diagnosis mission have never been trained before. Because even if we train, you know, 100 people every year, it happens that very often when we deploy other people than the 100 for whatever reason. So it's not rocket science. You know, I mean, if you are like a good expert in nutrition or good expert in whatever, in health, you should be able to support the application of the sectoral modules. So right now we consider that the regional network of experts can be part of the database of experts, and then in any case we will invite them to participate to the tutorial on the tool, which we will roll out in early 2022. Right, Ruben? Because we don't foresee the tutorial this year. I don't think we'll have time in December, but in early 2022.
Yeah, all the trainings. We're already starting to work with the partners to develop these trainings. Yeah. Is there any other question, or if it was clear, the answer? If there are no more questions, maybe we can talk a little bit about the next steps. No, we can. We have already mentioned a little bit about what we are doing. We are now in the phase of finalizing the development of the core functionalities of the tool. They are kind of in the testing phase, and we are extending this testing probably next weeks. Or next week, we're going to open this tool to other colleagues, start the testing now, because we are still finding small issues, like, and then we need to fine tune the thing. But the core functionalities are almost developed, all of them. So we are transitioning to the testing. We are going to also conduct like a demo, small demo, just to go from this process, what Bogdan was explaining, how to create a mission, and then when you select the specific context, the areas of interest, and how these areas of interest can be reflected in the question you're going to formulate for one specific country, and how you assign the responsibilities to the team members. Follow up. So we're going to conduct this demo, but we are estimating that perhaps by the end of November, beginning of December, we're going to have this internal demo, and then at the same time we are preparing these tutorials. So the idea is that we can have start preparing, organizing the webinars that are specific training tool, as Sophie was mentioning, beginning next year, early next year, so that we have to finalize this process. So we are going to have the general tutorial or the complete tool, but we're also going to develop together with our partners specific sector-specific trainings, webinar trainings. So how to use the tool for specific sectors, how to implement the same process, but we want to look at one specific sector. And the idea that is together with the partners like UNEP or WHO, we're going to develop together with them, because they know better even their specific question banks. We're going to develop with them these specific trainers. We're now developing one, starting to develop one on the issue of leaving no one behind and gender. So also one specific issue. So they're going to be like a general, but also sector specific, and maybe also principle specific tutorials on how to use the tool. Yeah, Sophie was mentioning that the whole generic are available in our website. So this is basically what Sophie was saying. This is the first webinar, the first series, just introducing the new tool, what we have developed, process, and we're going to continue with this. And hopefully by the end of this year, we're going to have the core functionalities ready to be deployed in our missions, and start implementing them next year. So if Sophie wants to say something more about possibly the first mission that when we are going to use the tool, but it will be like it.
Yes, maybe there are two. Sorry, let me put the video. There are two last points I would like to bring to your attention. Just to reemphasize that, yes, it's possible for government to use the tool without CADRI partner support, but it is also, of course, possible for an agency to use only a sectoral module to work only with one sectoral ministry. So, for instance, yeah, I'm taking again the example of education. If UNICEF wants to roll out a review of the education sector, policies, methodologies, organization at national, local level, etc., from a risk reduction angle, they can roll out the tool, the education sector module together with the Ministry of Education and other partners in country engaged in education. So it's also possible to use a tool for an agency-specific objective to support the development of a program document or whatever. I mean, there can be many use, and the tool is totally open to any of you. You create an admin profile for your agency, and then you roll with it. So that's one. Then in terms of, sorry, Ruben, you were saying there was another point.
No, just like we were discussing about the possibility, which will be the first
yes.
country where we could.
Yes, of course, sorry. Yes, the first country will be Zambia. There is a scoping, because in fact we have a number of countries, but none of them is using English as a first language. So the first English-speaking country to actually be able to roll out the tool is the government of Zambia. There is a scoping mission in a week time. IOM FAO scoping mission to Zambia. And IOM and FAO are actually going to discuss with the government how to customize the tool for the objective of to meet the expectations of the Zambian government. In your region, there is an ongoing I mean, we just started a discussion, as you know, with Costa Rica. Costa Rica could be one country, but it's totally like a pipeline country. Nothing is confirmed yet. And then another country under discussion is Haiti, but not for the application of the capacity diagnosis tool. So it's a different type of CADRI partnership engagement. So yeah, that will be it from my side. Maybe Jeanette, you have something to add on this.
No, not really, Sophie. Thank you so much. But I think this has been a great opportunity to show the powerful tool that you have put together, right? So as we move forward and colleagues learn a little bit more about the tool and how to use it in practical terms, I think the demand is going to grow quickly. So I think this is just the starting point. And I hope that in the near future, I know the end of the year is coming soon, but maybe early next year, we can start, rolling the tool in a more practical way so that people can really get to understand how to use it, when to use it, and sell it to our partners, our government, especially, to promote the tool and how to make use of it. So congratulations.
Yes, actually, yes, indeed, and also something that in terms of the rollout of the tool, something that we are also planning is actually to, to have like the primary client being the regional organizations, because for instance, in Africa, SADC was interested in the tool to roll it out for their client countries, for the member states, right? So we were also thinking of organizing a tutorial session specifically for CDIMA, because the tool is in English, and then once it is in Spanish for other regional organizations. So we can also think of socializing the tools this way. But anyway, as you say, more to come in 2022. And thank you so much to all colleagues, and thank you, Janet, for convening, and our colleagues from OCHA also for helping convening this webinar. And I hope, yes, the tool can find also its way in the issue-based coalition fora that UNDR is also convening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. And then we'll see each other soon, hopefully. Thanks to our colleague that was translating too. Thanks for her help, that facilitated this process. Janet again.
Why don't you ask everybody to put their cameras so you can
Ah, yeah. Great idea. Just before you leave, colleagues. So for our communications, if you just put your camera just a second. I'm gonna remove my glasses too, and I cannot see anything. Great. Thanks. I'll take the picture and then yeah. Dario, thanks a lot.
Good to see you.
I was saying if you have questions, just write to us. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. Ciao. Gracias.